What's up, guys? Tom Davis here, America's Canine Educator. On this episode, I'm going to introduce the Dogtra 1900S to my 8-month-old puppy, Lakota. Break. Yes. Whoa, oh, oh, whoa. What I always do with my collar at first is I always ask the dog to do very, very simple things: sit, stay, wait, come. And I'm conditioning the dog. The Dogtra 1900S, which if you haven't seen, I just did a review on it. You can check out all the specs on it. But Dogtra makes a vast array of very, very high quality professional dog training equipment. But I'm using the 1900S today. And so what I do is I always ask the dog to do something very simple. And so this is going to be the first session for Lakota. She's never done e-collar training before. I've waited until she was 8 months, mainly because I've been too slammed to even do anything. So I'm just going to ask her to do some basic stuff. And all I'm doing is I'm overlaying the collar. So just like using a slip collar, you're going to ask the dog to sit, and you're going to pop the dog or correct the dog or give the dog pressure until the dog does the behavior you want. You release the pressure, and the dog understands that you asked to do something, they don't comply, and then they get corrected. Yes. Working with a dog that is unfamiliar with the e-collar, it's important to start in small levels. So again, the Dogtra 1900S goes from 0 to 127, and I'm going to start her off on a 3, and I'm going to ask her to do things she already knows while layering over a level 3 stimulation. Come. Go to sit. Good. Sit. Good. Come. Good. Go to sit. So I'm asking her to sit. I'm hitting the nick feature on the Dogtra. Yes, and I'm paying her for doing what I ask. Good girl. I'm gonna do it again. Look her to sit. Tap, 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 tap. Sit. Good. Blots, tap, blots, tap. Good girl. Sit, tap. No. Look her to sit. Tap. Good girl. Blots, tap. Good girl. Yes. So I'm lining up my command with my tap on a very low level. And it'll take longer, but the dog's foundation with the e-collar will be much more successful than if you rushed into it and did a high number, stressed the dog out on something they don't know, and forced the dog to do something they think they might be doing properly. So I'm going to do it again with a couple sits, a couple downs, and I'm going to pay her with the remote, and that's what we're doing right now. Low levels, level 3, maybe a 4 or 5. It's very similar. That's why I love the Dogtra, because the variations of the different levels are so precise. So a level 3 is similar to a 5, etc. And working on a low level also won't put a ton of stress on the dog, and it will set you and your dog up for more success in the long run. And so I always like to use some sort of motivation, whether your dog motivates through food or a tug or a ball. So I'm using the ball today with Lakota, and as I'm moving, I'm tapping. So every direction I do, I'm giving her a tap to let her know where I'm going. And so I'm going to press the nick, tap, tap. She sits. I release the e-collar. I tell her to down or plots. I tap her until she does it. She releases. And so it's important that when you're doing this, you're communicating with your dog through your low levels on your e-collar. So every time I turn with Lakota, I turn and tap, and I turn and I tap, and I let her know where I'm going. So eventually what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the leash pressure by using the low stimulation on the e-collar. So every time I ask her to do something, I'm tapping, and as my hand goes up, I'm letting you guys know I'm tapping. And so here, I'm going to ask her to down, tap, down, tap. Good. Release. And you pay the dog for doing what you ask. So the idea is layering over your verbal command with your low-level stimulation on the nick command. There's 2 different settings in the Dogtra 1900S, much like almost all of their models. You have a nick and a continuous. You hold the button on nick, it goes once. You press down the continuous button, which is right below the nick, and it'll continuously send off a stimulation to the dog. And so I'm only using Nick right now just for a learning curve purpose on Lakota because she's very new to the e-collar. So every time I tell her to do something, I'm hitting the Nick command on a low level between 3 and 5, and that will set the dog up for success in the future. It eliminates a ton of stress because it's super low, so they feel it, but it's not painful, it's not even discomforting at that level, it's just there. And so the idea is you Nick, Lakota sit, tap, good, and you end it. Lakota sit, tap, sit, tap, sit, tap, sit, tap, sit, tap. So now I'm going to hold continuous down, sit, 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 good. So I ended it right when she sat up. Same thing when she goes down. I'm going to tell her to down, and I'm going to hit Nick, Lakota down, plots, tap, tap, all the way down. The moment she gets in the position you ask for, you release the stimulation from the remote. Very simple, very easy to understand. It's just timing and patience, especially on a green dog with the remote. Left. Good. Sit, tap. Sit, tap. Nope. Sit. Good. Yes. So biggest part about e-collar training, don't worry about anything else. This is your first session on a low to medium collar from Dogtra. And so don't worry about anything else except for your Nick command on a low level. As we progress in session 2 through 3 to 4 to 5, we're going to do 5 series program here with the e-collar. You can look back on all these videos and touch base on anything that you may need help on or maybe you think you're doing wrong. I have trained a lot of different dogs. I've watched a lot of different trainers train. This method is the best way to do it as far as I'm concerned with introducing the e-collar properly with 5 sessions, doing basics, and then getting up to the off-leash. And so that's what we're doing today, and that's what we did. And so I hope this is helpful for you for your first session. Just remember to stay low. Don't become frustrated, because if you're getting frustrated with the e-collar, it could be as simple as the e-collar not being on, the e-collar not being tight enough. All of these different things can come into play. So when you're using more advanced technology, things could go wrong at different points that you may be not used to because you're using different tools like prong collars, harnesses, food, etc. And so just understand the responsibilities of the e-collar and know that sometimes it doesn't always go as planned. But the biggest thing to do if things are going wrong and or you're becoming frustrated is just end the session. So I always do my first session for 15 to 20 minutes to introduce the e-collar, along with some positive reinforcement, food, tugs, balls, good boy, good girl, etc. Just to kind of balance the dog out when you're using the e-collar to let them know, hey, if you do this with this new tool, you get paid for it. And so this is step 1 and the 5-step process of introducing the e-collar. I did a couple different trainings tonight with the e-collar, and one of the questions that came up a couple times was, what if the dog associates something bad with the e-collar? And what that'll mean for the dog is the dog doesn't understand the e-collar. And so if you're conditioning on a low level for multiple days on something the dog understands, they'll do great. If you take a command, so say you get the collar out, you've been conditioning on a 4 and a 5. And this is what happens with the e-collar, is people get overconfident. They think, oh, my dog understands a 4 or 5, Dixie, sit. And then what we do, good girl, is we get overconfident. So we go out, we're working on a 4 or 5, conditioning, very easy stuff for the dog and yourself. And we say, watch this. The dog goes out to the field. We show all of our buddies, watch this, guys. We go on a 20 because the dog's farther away, and we think that that's going to do something, and the dog freaks out and then associates the e-collar with something bad, because they think something in the grass just bit them, or they'll go after another dog because they thought they'd get bit. And the stimulation from the e-collar is not painful, but it is a stimulation. And if the dog doesn't understand the stimulation before you actually correct the dog, that's when you can ruin the dog with the e-collar. So it's important that the dog understands the conditioning of the e-collar before you actually start applying corrections. Anyway, that's what I do, and I've had great success with that. Everyone has their own secret sauce. And so What I recommend is, again, making sure you're on low levels. Dixie, sit. Sit. So see, that was too high. So I was on a 6. The dog was looking where that was coming from. I went down to a 3. And now let's real quick see what happens with a 3. Come. I'm going to bring Dixie around. I'm going to ask her to sit again. Dixie, sit. Tap, 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 sit, tap, tap. Yes, good. So there was a lot less stress within that application of the e-collar than it was on the 8. Now, all right, so we're on 10. Put that 10 to my face. Okay, it's going. Doesn't hurt. Vibrate. It's on. So I conditioned Lakota and Dixie tonight on a 4. And I just turned it up to a 10 and put it on my face right in front of you. Did I feel it? Yep. Did it hurt? Nope. And so all of these things, like I'm not in the business to hurt dogs. I'm not in the business to be dominant. I'm in the business to help dogs. And this e-collar allows me to have zero conflict with dogs. It allows me to communicate with the dog off leash. It allows my dogs to be dogs. And so I'm going to do this series, the five series for everybody out there on my online portal, all my clients that are getting into the e-collar training, or anybody that just wants to know information about the e-collar training. It's a great layered over communication-based collar, and that's all it is. If you do it right, it's beautiful. If you do it wrong, it's your fault, just like anything. And so what it comes down to is people that are afraid of it, or people who don't like it, are probably afraid of it. People who don't know what it is probably don't like it because it's marked as a shock collar and it's not. Anything can hurt somebody if you use it wrong. And that goes with the flat collar, it goes with the pinch collar, it goes with the halty, it goes with the harness, it goes with the dog food that you're feeding your dogs, it goes with the McDonald's that you ate. Anything that you want to go get and abuse is your fault. And so I'm going to continue to do this training for everyone out there that wants to understand the e-collar and what a difference it's made in my career and my life. Peace! So if this video was helpful to you, or do you think it'd be helpful to your friends or family, please share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel below. You can work with me, America's Canine Educator, online at www.americascanineeducator.com, listed below. You can join my online portal, work with me every single day, and travel with me. Grow your dog business, work at wolf sanctuaries. Most importantly, fix your dog problems. I've had a huge success rate online by FaceTiming people, and it's just been incredible. I honestly didn't know how it would work at first, and I got to tell you, it's just as easy to train a person how to train their dog via FaceTime and help them out through video. So thank you guys so much for your valuable time. Don't forget, every single Monday I'm going to be doing this on my YouTube channel. So you keep asking questions, and I'll keep answering them.